Welcome to Better Preparedness. This is an episode about snakes. I got a chance to attend a briefing on dangerous snakes. It was held at a local wildlife reserve, and it was fascinating, and I highly recommend that you sit down, watch this with your family, especially with kids, because they'll never really get a chance to see a snake up close and understand what it's going to look like in the ground in the natural environment. There's two parts to this. First are excerpts from the snake training I took, and then secondly, a bit of the takeaway, what the key things I want you to remember in, this world that we have that includes snakes because they're part of the ecosystem. So enjoy the episode, and thanks for watching Better Preparedness. Click that like and subscribe button if if you like the video. Thanks.
Okay, so this is a puff adder, short fat snake, slow moving, well camouflaged, causes a lot of snake bites because people don't see them when they step on them. So you'll notice the snake's tongue is flicking all the time. The snake uses the tongue for smelling. The tongue is forked and moist. The tongue gets sticked up, they raise it in the air to pick up scent particles. With the draws the tongue back into the mouth. The tongue will touch the roof of the mouth, transferring the scent particles to the organ of Jacobson. The organ of Jacobson tells the snake what scent the tongue has picked up. So that's what it's used for. Yeah. Now, you see now he's getting ready in his strike position when he does that. You see if he's going to give us a strike. They're reluctant to strike. There's a strike. Quick strike. They strike very fast. Wear gaiters. Gaiters is protection that you put on your lower leg. 80% of snake bites are below the knee. So that's the area you need to protect. Okay, so this snake is called a Rinkhals. Right, the Rinkhals will make a hood like a cobra, and he's got those white marks on the front. Right, so that's where the name Rinkhals comes from. It comes from the Dutch Rinkhals, which means ring neck. To spit, the Rinkhals will rear up, and from that reared up position he's going to spit its venom. Okay, now I think the snake is going to do the other trick that he has. So now he's starting to play dead. Okay. So when they play dead, they turn the front part of the body over. Okay, sometimes they'll open their mouth. They spit about 1.5 to 2 times their body length. They'll spray the venom. Rinkhals sprays venom from a reared up position. So they rear up, and from that position they throw the front part of the body forward. And muscles squeeze the venom glands, and a jet of venom travels from each fang towards your face. Venom is mainly cytotoxic with a neurotoxic component, yes. If the snake spits venom, they must have a cytotoxic venom. So snakes spend 90% of their life underground in tunnels. You see there? You see how he sprayed the venom? The underside on the neck is pink, yellow or apricot color, and there's a number of dark bands on the neck. Okay, so you can see how the snake spat the venom there, eh? And the snake was spraying the threat, the thing that was threatening it. It's a non-spitting cobra. Right, when they do that, the ribs in the neck region are pulled out to the side, so it stretches the neck skin out, makes the snake look bigger than he is. See there? And often, it is a venomous snake, it can kill you, but the venom is not as potent as puff adder venom, for instance.
So if you do come across a snake like this, do you stand or do you step back, or what do you...
Just stand, relax a bit, and then slowly move away. Before that is body cavity. Right, so the most common snakes in this area, right, you get the Mozambique Spitting Cobra we looked at, the snouted cobra. Okay, puff adders, you get night adders, you'll get stiletto snakes, look in that little bookie that I have, you'll see a stiletto snake. Stiletto snakes are small little snakes. They're normally about 40 to 50 centimeters. Shiny black snake. All right. They have extremely long fangs, and they use one fang at a time to bite.
In places like this, what would you advise when you're out in the nature and you're out in various nature reserves around the city? What do you recommend then?
Yeah, we recommend that people protect the lower legs and the feet. Yeah.
Also avoid long grass.
Okay, guys, you must protect the lower leg. At night, you must take an extra precaution. All right. 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., 50% of snake bites take place. A lot of snakes become active at night because their prey is active at night. Alright, so when you go camping at night, you think, oh, I'm just going to go to the tree and have a wee. It's not a good idea. That little distance, you step on a snake. So you need to protect the lower leg, you need to take a torch. I can tell you now, prevention is far better than cure.
Yeah.
Yes. Snakes do bite dogs, cattle, sheep, but dogs are problem animals.
And now wild
They see a snake, they just go for it and they just attack it. Sawscale vipers are small little snakes. They grow 40 to 60 centimeters, very slender adders. They have a very powerful hemotoxic venom that causes internal bleeding. Right. Sawscale vipers cause most snake bites and most snake bite deaths in Africa. And they are full up in West Africa. From Senegal to Nigeria, it is full up with sawscale vipers. So we make an antivenom that's used in West Africa for the sawscale vipers. Antivenom. Right. It depends very much on what type of snake bit you and how much venom was injected. Obviously, the sooner the better. All right. But in terms of when we do snake bites, we classify what bite it is. So we're looking at 3 snake bite syndromes in South Africa. We classify what is the syndrome. Right. Then we've got a chart that the doctor can use to see if it is a serious bite. And if the chart says to him it's serious, he gives antivenom. And the chart also tells him how much to give.
Here are the 10 takeaways that I have. Snakes are out there, and they'll continue to be out there. They're also not very common, so we don't often think about them as we see birds all the time, so they're kind of in our mind and so on. And birds don't tend to be terribly dangerous for us, but snakes are out there. They'll be out there, and the risk is out there. So it's important to just keep that in mind and to do something about that, when we can. Point number 2. Hopefully this goes without saying, but snakes rarely go hunting for humans. They rarely eat humans. I don't think there's probably any case of a snake necessarily eating a human. Most of those dangerous interactions and bites are often us going into their habitat and often walking on them because we didn't see them. Or we come upon them because we're hiking or running or whatever it is, and suddenly the snake is there, it feels threatened, or it tries to defend itself. It's really important to know where you're walking and to be vigilant about where you're walking and what you're doing, and especially for kids if they're playing, things like grassy terrain, river embankments, logs, and various things. They're great places to play, but they're also, quite often the habitat for the snakes. 50% of bites occur between about 5 and 10 p.m. So that's important to remember that that's kind of a happy hour or so for snakes to be out there because, their prey is out there. So they're not necessarily out there trying to have interactions with humans. It's just their prey, like the rodents, the various other things are out and about. So the snakes are out and about. 80% of bites occur below the knee. Now this is kind of, when you think of it, it's kind of logical because snakes are on the ground. But what it shows you is the vulnerability of the lower limb. So from the knee downwards, that means your foot, that means your shin, your calf muscle, something that is reachable quite easily for the snake because they're fairly low to the ground. But you also have to keep in mind that there are a number of varieties of snakes that spit their venom. Now this could be the Rinkhals or the Mozambique Spitting Cobras, and those ones will spit very fine droplets of extremely damaging venom, and that can hit people in the eyes and everything. So it kind of depends. Like, yes, keep in mind the vulnerability of the lower limbs, but it's also if people's fingers are reaching down to grab something on the ground, and that's how you can see how your fingers would get into the biting zone of the snakes as well. So keep in mind how and when those dangerous interactions could happen. Darkness is one of those challenges where we just talked about the fact that the snakes are out in the dusk and evening. Well, the key thing there is having a flashlight, a torch, or whatever you want to call it, a headlamp, is to see what is around us. So when you're out there walking, if you're camping, you're going for a weekend in the bush type thing, there's a cabin or whatever it is that if you're out walking around, is bring a light at night and make sure you see what's around you, because often it's us not seeing the snakes, and we walk too close, or we step on a snake. That Rinkhals, which is very kind of camouflaged, very easy to overlook it, and that's where a lot of the interactions and the bites happen, is because, well, people near step on it or step on it. Now, there are some recommended first aid actions for snake bites, but they're so specific to the location of the body, like on the body, the type of snake, the level of danger of the snake, and the region and everything. And this applies kind of around the world. So really important to take local first aid training and ask them. And it's not for me to give you first aid suggestions, because there's so many things that are specific to technique, to the bite and everything like that. And so as you saw in the video, the best thing to do is probably go seek medical attention and get their input on it. There's something called snake-gaiters. Well, this is more for if you're a snake handler, and it protects kind of the knee down to about the ankle, because you probably have some good footwear. So snake-gaiters are available. They're not really probably going to be something most of us have, because it's kind of really people who work in high danger areas, like in mining and so on, may be best suited to have some snake-gaiters. But it's a reminder of our footwear and what we have on our lower legs. So many times when we're out camping, especially in South Africa, you're wearing shorts, you're wearing sandals, and that shows you just how vulnerable your lower legs are. So, if you're not going to wear snake-gaiters, which is probably logical, keep in mind your clothing choices. One of the most important things for me in doing this was that I need to remember, and my family needs to remember, that when we're out camping, when we're out staying in cabins, or we're in rural areas, is to keep the door closed, especially on the tent, on the cabin, when you're staying somewhere really remote. Just one more opportunity to reduce the risk. Number 10, seek out the training in your area. Now this training is something I've been wanting to take for a long time, because we've lived in North Africa and East Africa. Here we are in Southern Africa, but even parts of Canada have snakes like rattlesnake. So take the training if you can. Find out more about your snake risk. Maybe the information in the video about the saw-scaled viper. I'd never even heard about that, but that's of course more of a West African danger, but that's also present in some parts of Asia. Take the training specific to your area and learn as much as you can. I'm going to add this little extra clip. If you ever encounter snakes, or especially in your area or in your professional environment, when we were playing mini golf a little while ago, and I recorded this because I'd taken the snake training, but we noticed that people were quite apprehensive about unfolding this big tarp. And then some snake people arrived, and they started opening it up, because there's a tremendous risk. Like that's where the snake feels comfortable. It likes to be in that dark kind of tunnel type terrain, similar to what a tarp would offer. And so they slowly unfolded this tarp, and then eventually found the snake. Now, when I went up and talked to them after the fact, it wasn't a dangerous snake. But none of us are snake professionals, really, right? So call on the professionals if you suspect a dangerous snake in a location, and make sure you do it right, because the last thing you want to do is put yourself at risk. But it's also good to know, have a bit of closure. If you suspect that there's a snake in this or that location, maybe in your garden, maybe on your property, well, call in the professionals. It pays off. Well, thanks a lot for watching. Do what you can to reduce the risk. Be out there and enjoy yourselves, but you can also reduce that risk and hopefully be safer. Click that like and subscribe button.